This is what it is, okay? I said empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Now water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend.
Welcome to the 32nd episode of the Deployment Dojo. This is a live show where we introduce software installation topics and using the WiX Toolset. I'm your host, Rob Mensching, and joining me today, once again, is my very good friend and first student of the dojo, David Edson. David, how you doing, man?
Doing well, thank you.
All right. Hey, everybody's here. We're talking about... All right. Bert, Martin, Bob, Tom, welcome. Bob just said a 30-second episode, which is the exact same thing David said to me when I said today was the 32nd episode of the Deployment Dojo. This is too funny. Welcome, all of you. We're getting back to code today. We took a little detour last week to talk about how it works, how well it can work, or how well it doesn't work when you don't have setup integrated into your build system, the way that WiX Toolset is designed, and then the benefits of doing so. Namely, we were able to go in and fix a break that was introduced because the dev team wasn't integrated, and then went in and changed the code to work the way we helps us best in deployment. And I made a promise that it was going to help us doing our setup work. So today I'm going to make good on that promise. We are going to pick up where we left off. Do you remember the root problem that we were tackling, David, that we were having with this changes that we made around configuration?
I'm trying to remember. Sorry, I'm kind of looking back at some of my older notes here.
The problem is that we kept losing the directory.
Okay, right.
Right, that we kept losing the folder. So let's bring the code up and let's get into it.
Sounds good.
Okay, belt test, open it up. Let's get our changes hooked up, please. Open. All right, create our branch. All right, so episode 32, 32nd episode. I don't know, that sounds pretty cool. Open up our build, do our build command, and things like this. All right, so I'm getting ourselves warmed up, and then we'll jump right back into the code. Maybe one of these days I'll be able to type all this while I'm giving that intro. I don't know, David. I'm still not quite there yet. Start episode 32. And this is remembering the user configuration. Our whole problem here that we're having is remembering that these things are happening, that this directory is changing. All right, let's go ahead and get ourselves all set up. Okay, Solution Explorer. We chose to put all of our configuration in this one file with the class library. And this class library, if we take a quick look at its code, is the thing that reads our registry key and gets to our program, both the service and the executable, reads this registry key so it tells it where the file is that is going to be shared between the service writing the count and the executable reading the count, and these are those two registry keys. That all sounds familiar, I hope? Yes, all right.
Yes.
And the issue we had is that when we allowed this directory to be configurable, because we want to allow this to be user configurable, where the data.txt is our application data, we control that, we get to change that, we don't have any problems maintaining that. Here we want the user to be able to change the data folder. The issue we had 2 episodes, or 3, I think it was just 2 episodes ago, was that when we customized this folder and then uninstalled, it didn't clean up our file, and because it didn't remember where this directory was, right?
Right.
Yep. Kind of ringing a bell here?
Yep.
All right.
Now I remember.
All right. Do I need to do a demo? Should we kick up there, or is it, you think that's good enough for everybody?
For showing the original problem or what?
Yeah. Do we need to show the original problem?
If you have it up already, yeah, let's do it real fast.
All right. Let's do it real fast.
For people like me who haven't seen it for a week and like, oh,
and people like me that are huge visual learners, I learn by doing, so let's do that. All right, so I got a comment in the last week. I don't exactly remember when. Definitely since the last show, that someone pointed out a very cool trick that I honestly didn't know. All right, and I'm gonna show it to you now. Bin x86 debug enus belt test. All right, so if I click on this, it uses our default folder where data folder goes, which is nested underneath our program files, all that kind of stuff. That all works. So we need to run this with a customized folder, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we need to go and open a command prompt.
Yes.
So they said I could just type cmd here and it would open up the command prompt in that directory. Look at that. That is cool.
What?
Yeah, okay, right? I didn't know this. Thank you very much. I think it was like Dino prop. I don't know. It wasn't a usual username. It was some character. So anyway, thank you very much for that tip. This has saved us time. Hey, he's right here. Dino SPFC. Thank you very much. I love it. I think you've made some friends today. Dino, welcome. Welcome. All right, belt test. Data folder equals, and let's just put it at c:\data.
Yep.
All right, so this will customize it and we will run it. Do an install. Our folder's here. Notice no data folder right here. And let's go ahead and open another Explorer window to c:\data. And there it is. This looks good. That's where we told it to put the file. No problem. And if we run our exe, what is it? Console app 1.exe. I am going to have to rename these if we create too many of these. Is that not what it is? Console application. Sorry. Gosh, am I? Oh, console app. One.
I thought you had.
Did it? Oh, I opened this before I installed the MSI, didn't I? Yes. So this is a limitation of MSI. It will not update the It will not update the path in the existing and props. All right, let's try that again. Console app 1 now. Now it's in our path. Okay. Yes. This is a thing that people always want. Updating the environment of an already opened command prompt doesn't work well. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Makes sense.
All right. So it makes sense. It's annoying. Lots of people want to try to solve it. There are lots of really hacky ways to do that. Okay. We've proved that it's working. Our data tech has been there. Now let's go ahead and uninstall our MSI. There's belt test. Uninstall it. Yes, I would like to uninstall. We will see that our application folder in program files over here is gone and our data folder's left over. We left stuff behind. We let the user configure where they want to put their data and we left application data behind, right? This is ours. We should be cleaning up our stuff after it. It's not user data. Like it's not their term paper. It's nothing that they did. We should be cleaning up after ourselves.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to close the sandbox. We'll bring it back up again. We'll be able to do the command trick again so everybody that missed it the first time can see it again or thought that was voodoo. All right. Cool. We need to remember that this value was set. And remember last time I said let's split these two pieces where before the name of the file was included with the folder name. All right?
Right.
Now, if you remember going back to our whole variable discussions, we had variables that you can set when they're all caps, you can set them on the command line, both directories and properties as part of the MSI. Right. And then I said that the Windows installer treats directories and properties the same. That's why we can do this square bracket data folder and we can make this directory and set it here. All right.
Right.
Okay. Cool. So now what we want to do is that value is in the registry key. We need to get that value back out because the Windows installer isn't remembering it for us, but we've remembered it for ourselves by creating this registry key. So how do we go about doing that? Well, there's this feature in WiX that we can put property. I just got to be all caps. Remember, I can spell. I'm going to create a property called remember data folder. And underneath this property, I'm going to put a registry search. What this is a built-in functionality in Windows Installer where you can say, hey, Windows Installer, during the install, when you start up, please go and read this registry key for me and give me the value that's in it. Sound perfect, right?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, all right. So Let's see. Key is the same, so software built. Actually, it's all this, I think. I just want all these things here. Oh, not file name, I want folder. All right, here we go. Root folder HKLM. Boom. And it wants, it wants me to give it an ID? I bet that's not true anymore. It's probably a bug in the doc, but we'll give it search data folder. This ID is not going to be necessary, but we're going to put it there to make it happy. And then, it wants me to get the type. Right. Type. And when you look up a directory, you can say the value points to a directory, a file, or the raw value. And honestly, I know I want raw. I forget if directory will give me one. There's all these little funny things. I forgot to look up the difference between directory and raw here. We're going to go with raw. I just want the value back out and set into the remember data folder.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to set this property to where I remembered this data folder being at. Okay.
Okay.
So far, so good.
So far, so good.
All right. So what I think I want to do here now is I need to set this value to this remember data folder. All right. And the Windows installer provides me a way to do that. And I have to explain the difference between these two things. I'm going to call set property. This is going to be a little bit weird, but remember I said we could create folders as values. And I want it to set it to the value of remember data folder. I think that's what I want to do. And I want to do it after, you know what? After app search. All right, so this registry search is what we call an app search. And I want to schedule the setting of this property after setting of the data folder after I do app search. If I set it before app search, there will be no value coming back from remember data folder. All right. And I think if I have done this all correctly, when there is no value, the Windows installer will reset data folder for me correctly, if I remember correctly. All right. So let's kind of work our way through this. We're going to bundle through this one and see how it all works out. Okay.
Okay. So are you going to set it manually first, or are you just going to let it run first to see the installer sets data folder?
Which do you want? We'll do it. Your choices.
Sure. Not manually first.
All right. So we just want to run the MSI normally to
Yeah.
start with. All right. Let's do that one. All right. Boom. All right. Bin. x86 debug, and let's see, make sure everything gets was. I may need to run this from the command line because we're going to be using a log file a lot to make sure that we see these variables getting set. So you're going to see a lot of use of log file here so we can make sure the values are getting set. But let's go ahead and run this first.
Okay.
Doing its thing, please wait. And if everything worked, our data folder's right here, right? So it didn't find a value, it just defaulted it, and our console app opens up, no problem.
Sounds good.
All right. Now, let's uninstall it. Let's try to customize it, and let's see if this works the first time. There's no reason it has to work the first time, because I could have got some of these operations wrong, and I decided that I'm just going to show you guys the operations. I have a bug in here. All right, let's see. Command. Look at that. That is really nice. That saves so much time. It's awesome. All right, so we're going to do, I uninstalled it, right? Yes, I did uninstall it. MSI exec/I belt test data folder equals C:, data, right? Something.
Right.
Value doesn't matter that much. All right, cool. We'll create it there. Now we've seen this work before. Let's see if it worked this time. Oh, it didn't listen to me this time because it reset it. Oh, I didn't. All right. Let's debug. This is why I wanted to do this with you guys, because I thought it'd be much more interesting if we did this together than if I did it myself. All right, here we go. L*B. Right, get our log file. We'll call it log.txt.
Yep.
Install log.txt. All right. Make this bigger. Okay, so now we're going to search for remember, because that was the variable name. Did not find it. Did I spell it right? Make sure I spelled it right. All right, I did spell it right. Now let's look for a data folder and see what it gets set to. There it got set to C colon data. Property is C colon data. That's good. And then set data folder. Okay, right? So our set data folder, which was this thing, right? Set it to blank. Changed it, deleting data folder property. Its value was data. So what happened was our action always ran and it overwrote our data folder with a blank value. So when we pass on the command line, this set property hit it. There was no value remembered, so it reset it. And then the Windows installer said, oh, if data folder's not set, then I need to set it correctly. Does that make sense?
I get, so you have to have that below data folder, or what's the deal?
Yeah, so how am I going to get this set, right? I only want the set if they remembered some data, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really what I wanted to do. Let's clean up our install here. Did I install it? I did. Let's go ahead and uninstall it, clean up. And so, sorry, let's keep going. We'll see data. I jumped to the end. All right, so it deleted the data folder property, even though I set it on the command line, right? So it's like, because of that set data folder, it reset it. And then later on it goes, oh, well, now I have to add the data folder property and set it to that folder where I installed to, right? Sorry, the Windows installer said, oh, data folder's not set. Then I will set it to whatever the MSI said it should be by default.
Right.
Which is what we have authored, which is what we're always used to. So it went back to where it was. All because, if I go backwards, yes, Shift F3. If I go back up, we are removing the data folder that's getting set on the command line. Does that make sense?
Yes.
All right. So because we were always clearing the value, we have now disabled our ability to customize it via the command line. And that's a problem. Because now we can't customize it. No matter what value we put here, our little command here, this new set, is resetting it every single time and causing then always to fall back to the default value for data folder. All right.
Okay.
Okay. And you're like, well, that's not great. That's not what we want. So what do we want? Well, we only want to run this. Whoop, I deleted a key. I'm going to reset the Dojo or the sandbox just to be sure. So we only want to set data folder if there's a value for remember value, right?
Right.
So why don't we do that? There's this thing, I hope, and get it on here, the condition. So we could, this is at install time, you can run a condition, say, hey, only do this if it is true. And we could say, hey, only do this if this property is true, or if this property is set to anything. All right. Okay, so we can say, hey, if this property has any value, then go ahead and run this set property. If it does not have a value, don't run it. This should fix our problem. Now, when we do a search and it finds no value, we will not set data folder, and we should see that message inside the log file. Making sense here? Is it holding together?
Yes. Yes.
All right, let's go ahead and do this. So I closed the sandbox. So I want to make sure we cleaned up all that mess that I created. And we're going to open it again. All right, so I'm just going to reiterate while that's starting up. We have created our own little property to read the value from the registry, which is what this does for us. We haven't actually seen it work yet, but it will set the value. And if that value is set, now with this condition, we'll take the value of it and we'll put it into the data folder. All right. And this magic, I happen to know that the name of that app search is the name of all of these searches, so I can do it after the searches are done. If I do it before the searches, well, then remember data folder will never be set. Okay. All right, let's see if I have sandboxes up, and let's do another install. Should we start with the default, or should we do it customized right off the bat? Bin x86 debug enus. Let's go ahead and customize it.
Yeah, I was gonna say we were there anyway. So
we know that if it's not set, then it's not set. All right, here we go.
Yeah.
MSI exec/I belt test data folder equals C:, L star V to get everything logged, and log.txt. Running. All right. Could it work this time? It's not here. It is here. Look at that. It worked this time. All right. Now let's open up our console app, make sure it's working. Good. It's seeing the count. 15, 16, 17. All right. Let's look at this log file again. Notepad log.txt. All right. And I'll make this bigger again. All right. And I'm going to search for data folder because we have remember data folder. All right. So command line. The data folder was set on the command line to C:\data. That's correct. We did do that. And then we set its property. It's saying, hey, by the way, I set the property of that. That's great. Notice here now it says that set data folder command that we gave it, condition is false.
Okay.
So it didn't do anything. Skipped it. So data folder did not get rewritten, did not get set to empty. And now here it is. The modifying this data folder value is data. Its new value is data. All right. So what this is saying is I'm setting the directory to this. That's a really strange way for them to say that. Its current value is C:\data. Its new value is C:\data. Oh, I take that back. All directories in the Windows installer end in a backslash. See that? See the difference between it? That's why this is modified. I forgot about that. So this is a good thing. So you can see how now that it recognized, oh, you had a property named the same as a directory. The ID is the same, both caps. So they can set them for the command line. The value came in and it said, oh, I'm going to set the directory to this. And we can see it did so. And it put the backslash on it because the Windows installer expects all directories to end in backslashes. Cool.
Okay. Yep.
And then here we can see it says, hey, there we go. In the list of all of our directories that we have, program files folder here. We have install folder, which we can see is deployment dojo. There's all the directories we had available to us. All right. Our desktop, our menu folder. Those are all things that we use inside our MSI. Cool.
Yes.
Cool. So now we've set it during install. The question is, does it remember when we uninstall? MSI exec/x belt test l*v log.txt. Or how about, log.txt. All right. I am not setting data folder on the text. So we have to see if it remembers now using our search to get the value set correctly, right? This is the whole point of everything we've been working ourselves up to, is that this works. MSI, no, there we go. The drum roll, please. Oh, fresh. Okay. MSI exec/x belt test. And /x, of course, is the way that you uninstall. I don't know why they did X. Yes, I'd like to uninstall, please. Go, go, go. Look, the data folder disappeared.
Yep.
It was here and it remembered. Let's look at our log.txt again. Data folder. Oh, it remembered. That's cool. All right, look, property change. Maybe a little smaller. Look, it said remember data folder, property. Its value is now C:\data. All right.
Yep.
And then we did our set data folder action and it set data folder to that value. Cool. So we remembered it, set it, and returned it. And then if we come down here, there it is, C:\data. Boom. Success. Right? Right?
Nice. Yes, right.
Right. All right. So, a lot of steps there to kind of make that work. Should I go over them one more time?
Yes. Well, actually, in that condition there, is that condition like an attribute of just a set property element, or is there, you can use that in other ways and areas?
You want to jump ahead a little bit?
No, that's all right. Not if it's too far ahead.
Let's do it. No. It's actually very simple. Let's jump ahead a little bit. All right.
Okay. Sure.
You asked, are there other places you can do conditions? Yes, there are other places you can do conditions. How about this one? We can create what's called a launch condition. Okay. So a launch condition is something that must be true for you to be able to install. And if it's not, then you can display this message.
Oh, okay. I get it.
All right. So let's try it. We're going to build. Just rebuild the solution, please. All right. While that's building, I will clean up a little bit here. We successfully uninstalled. All right. Yep. Everything's uninstalled. So this looks good. All right. So when that finishes building, built in almost 6 seconds. That's not bad. All right. Here we go again. Let's just double click the MSI. One of these prompts has it. Here we go. I'm just going to double click the MSI. We've rebuilt it. It now has this launch condition in it. All right. And I think if I got the syntax correct, boom, build test. You must specify a data folder on the command line. Where did we get that message? That message came from whatever I typed right here.
Okay, cool.
All right. So does it still work then? Let's see. Okay. And then failure. All right. So now we'll go back here. MSI exec/I will pass data folder C:data on the command line. Go. Ta-da. Now it installs.
Okay.
All right. So, and there are more places we could put conditions, and we will talk about more of them in place. But I thought this was an easy one to see it.
Okay. Yeah, it wasn't specific to the set property thing there. Okay.
It is not. So set property is actually just a wrapper around what they call custom actions. Actions you can run inside the Windows installer. Windows installer has all those other actions like installing services, installing files, removing files. Like there's lots and lots of actions. It has another one called app search, where it does all of the searches that you have. And here we have a registry search that we're using, but you can also search for files and directories and things like that on the system, right? So what I've done is I've added an extra step into all those lists to say, hey, I need you to set this value to this value. I need you to set the data folder value to the remember data folder. Let me say that again. I need you to set the data folder variable to the value of the remember data folder variable when the remember data variable has a value.
Right.
Okay. And without this condition, then this says always set the data folder variable to the value of the remember data folder variable. And if the remember data folder variable does not have a value, it erases it. All right.
That makes sense. Yep.
And then because this is happening at search, then later on when the Windows installer processes the directories, it's like, oh, data folder is a directory. We have it over in our folders. It's right here. Data folder is a directory. It doesn't already have a value, so I'm going to give it a value based off of this directory tree right here.
Okay.
So technically speaking, you could probably define your directory tree with just random names and then use these properties to define, like set them one by one. Okay. Don't do that. So much more work, so much more pain. Use directories like you want, and then you only have to do this extra work when you want to remember, when you want to customize the directory. And as we found, the directory doesn't have a key file in it. Remember? Because when we had a file in here that was the key file, it remembered the folder for us, and we didn't have to do any of this work.
Yep.
Which then does lead to the question, is it better to use this registry value as the key path, or would it be better for us to try to make this file the key path of this and just avoid all of this searching and everything for us?
Yeah, using the file might be a little easier.
Correct. And because we know we want the file to always exist, then we could try to install it and set the permissions on it so that it could be, installed. We did that, right? In one episode where we created the file. And then, of course, its application data will have to mark to be removed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got it.
All right. So this pattern up here is one of these we call the remember pattern inside the Windows installer. It is a very common thing to do. And in this case, we're remembering a directory, which is a little bit weird because there's other ways to remember a directory. But sometimes if you just have a value from the user and you want to remember it, then this sort of using a reg key, searching for it, setting the property back again is a really nice way to solve this problem.
Okay. Yep.
Cool?
Cool.
All right. This is as far as I wanted to get today. And we even got to toss in a little bit of launch conditions in the mix. So that was fun. All right. So let's do sparring while I finish typing up and you can ask any questions.
Sure.
All right, David, what do you want to ask about while I sort out what changes I want to take here?
Well, the big one was the condition in there, but maybe more to talk a little. You mentioned that a lot of these like properties and stuff are wrappers of Windows installer actions. Is it worthwhile to know what some of those Windows installers actions are, or it's like how much do you need to know about the Windows installer and its actions to utilize this?
So that's a great question. And as soon as you start getting more advanced, learning more of the actions in the Windows installer becomes useful. But most only when you start doing more of these custom actions, like you want to insert your actions around them. In general, they're all laid out for you in the correct order, so things just work. So that you don't have to know. Like, for example, how far have we gotten before you even realized that there were actions in the Windows installer?
Right. Quite a
We've been
ways,
installing files, registry keys, we installed a service, we've been creating folders, we set permissions on folders. There are actions for each of those things, for setting permissions and for setting folders. And obviously the permission setting action has to come after the creating of the files actions, and the creating of folders action has to come before the creating of files actions. And you see where it goes, right? So the order is handled for you inside the WiX toolset. It just writes all that, and you then need to know all the actions when you get to the level where you have to start going, oh, I now need to schedule between the actions of removing the files and removing the service, because I have to do something in the service before the files are removed. That's when you have to start understanding.
Okay. And then the other one is maybe a little bit, speak a little bit on the in the set property element there, the after app search. Now you've told me what it is.
Yep.
What I'm trying to still get a little grasp around when it says after app search.
Okay.
So can you go over that just a little bit, just to reiterate it in my mind for me?
Definitely. All right. I've got my commit message. By the way, I am not going to commit this launch condition change.
Right. Makes sense.
Okay.
Especially if we're going to do it later, right?
I don't know if we're going to do it later or not. Like, you can have conditions. And classes. Command line overrides. So Martin's saying that's not enough to handle the command line overrides. I think it works okay with command line overrides. So far, it's all behaving correctly, Martin. There is more advanced scenarios that Martin's hinting at where this won't always work out perfectly, but I think this is enough for where we're at. And then Dino's asking about UI will come later. Most of the V3 syntax for MSIs applies. Overwriting data folder and upgrade. Yeah, so we will be doing the upgrade, Martin, thing next. That was not today because we're already at time. So Dino, most of the UI hasn't changed from V4 to V3. Some things got simpler, like you don't have to specify publish equals 1 anymore. Little things like that, because it always sets. And then Tom is asking, can WiX build MSTs to pass command line variables when deploying with a WiX group policy? Let's see, Tom, that's a good question. I'll try to slam that here at the end if we have a little bit of extra. Let me get David's questions first. Your question's actually pretty interesting, and we'll see if we can do something there. All right. So sorry, David, remind me, you were asking about the after, right? The after and arrow that. So the WiX tool set is declarative. You just say, hey, I want these files in these directories, or these registry keys. You don't say, please write this file, please create this directory. You don't have, it's not a script. It's not a list of operations that you're doing. You're stating, I want these things to be true at the end. And then the WiX tool set in conjunction with the WinInstaller then runs that through its series of actions, but it's all declarative. I want this file, therefore the WinInstaller will take care of getting that file and all the directories on the machine, right? You don't say create directory, create directory, create directory, create file, right. create file, create file, right? So it's a different way of thinking. When you get into that declarative, the way that WiX works versus procedural, like what you're more used to with C# or any programming language, if this, then that, do this, XYZ, that's a procedural languages. This is a declarative language. When you're declarative, you have to say what you are in relation to other things. So when we have certain cases, and the execution of the actions is one of the very few places that's procedural in the Windows installer. First app searches happen, and then you do what's called costing. You calculate all the directories, and if there's free space, WinInstaller does all that for you. And then it's like install files, then install services, then write registry keys, or whatever order. And I don't remember the order right now. I'd have to go look, because I know the WinInstaller takes care of that for me. All right, so what happens then if you want to insert yourself into that space, then declaratively, then you say, I want to come before or after such a thing, as opposed to saying app search is at 5 and I want to come after it, so I'll make my number 6. Do you remember writing BASIC a very long time ago, David, when we were kids? Yeah. And we'd have to renumber the BASIC, and we're talking BASIC on an IBM PC Junior. Dave and I were writing code way back when together. a long time ago, and you'd have line numbers, and then you have to renumber them so you can insert more lines in between, and you jump by tens to make sure you have room to start with, and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
You have the same sort of things in the Windows installer. There is actually a number sequence for all of the actions, but you don't have to worry about it, because in WiX you just say, I want this to come before this step or after that step. So let's just hack this real quick. Before, yeah, Martin's hinting at Orca. We will touch on Orca. I'm trying to go as far as I can without going there. All right. So what happens if I do, if I set the data folder before app search? All right.
Okay.
And we build. Running. And is my sandbox still up? Yes. All right. Is my sandbox clean? No. Uninstall. Yes. All righty then. All right, cool. So that's that folder. Here we are on the root. Okay. Oh no, I didn't want another tab. Okay. I will now do MSI exec belt test data folder to that directory again. Okay. But now we've said that the set property for data folder comes before app search, not after it. Yeah, Paul Pryor knows what we're talking about. Yeah, he's right there. All right, that's cool. All right, so it looks exactly like that. For those of you that are wondering, it was 10 print Dojo rocks, 20 go to 10. Exactly that kind of coding. All right, so I'm gonna install. All right, this worked before. It will work this time. Should work, right?
Right.
Look, folder got put in the right place. This looks good, right? If we look at log.txt, make it a little bigger. We'll look at data folder. All right, so we set it on the command line. Right? Command line. That tells us, hey, by the way, I changed this property based on the command line. Thank you. And then down here it said skipping the action because it had no data. Okay? Or
right.
Here. And then down here we modified the value from data to have the backslash. Yay, thank you very much. And then we've got our data folder and everything else works out great. Okay, cool. So now I'm going to do an uninstall msi exec/x. There we go. F8 to run the last command based off that. Belt test log.txt. All right, cool. So now we're going to uninstall. We are not setting data folder in command line. We're going to expect the remember to find the value from the registry.
Okay, this is where it'll fail here then, right?
Well, it's not going to fail, but it's not going to work the way we want.
Right.
Because the data folder is
data folder won't, it'll be the x86 or whatever, right?
Exactly. It's going to be set back to the wrong value. So if we look at log file again, and we're going to see it here, data folder. Set data folder, skipping the action because the condition is false. Why is the condition false? The condition is remember data folder, but I have remember data folder here. Why is it false? It's because I'm happening before app search instead of after app search. Okay. So the value for remember data folder gets set a little bit later. Do we see that? There we go. Look at that. Right after set data folder, it says, hey, look, action started. App search right there in the log file, and there's our property change. So you can see the names of the actions here too. So there it goes. We ran our we skipped actions, set data folder, condition is false, and then we started doing app search, and then it found the value, and oops, now everything is busted.
Okay. So you can actually look at those action starts too to get an idea of
which I should have pointed that out. Okay. These action starts are the actions that will show up in the installer.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, it's thank you, David. That's a very good point. A very good point. You can see like, hey, why did my set data folder not work? And then you see remember data set here, and you're like, oh, I need to be after this action instead of before it. Also note, here's launch conditions. This is the thing that evaluates those launch conditions, which we have commented out right now.
Huh, cool.
Yeah, all right, cool. I think we're going to leave it there. Tom, you asked a very cool question. I'll try to work it into another episode. I'm going to have to put probably a little bit too much together. Unless, we're already pretty much over. Let me see if I have enough here to even get started. WiX, MSI. Yeah, so if you're wondering, in WiX 4, the thing you're looking for is actually creating transforms. And oh gosh, I really want to dig into this. You know what? I may just insert this into next week's episodes just because it's kind of cool and fun. And it's really
too long for today.
Oh yeah, it's going to take us. It's going to take us more than a half hour probably to get this even going. And we're already 10 minutes over. So this is fun. This is cool. Maybe I'll insert this next time. because I think this will be a fun. It's a little bit of a deeper digression, but it shows off some very cool Windows installer functionality, and yeah, and plus some other Wix command line stuff. Yeah, you know what? Let's do this next week. I think we close this. This feels pretty good, right, David? I think we're at a pretty good spot here.
Yep.
So let me go ahead and push this. All right, a little bit more. Is anything else from the from out there? All right, I think we're fine. It looks good. There's enough for 100 plus. Oh, Martin, yes. Oh no, this is we're a long way from done. We are a long way from done. All right, I need to look at these changes, make sure they're correct. There's our change for episode 32, and there's our remember. So that's the diff in the end. Let me make this a little bigger for you guys. Right, that diff's not bad, right? Is this whole little pattern here of being able to add this and remember this and have this come up is not too bad. Right. So this is the change. Remember the data folder. I guess it's not really a property, but and this is something also that you're probably seeing. You see how we're kind of treating folders and properties as interchangeable, because properties are the variables inside the Windows installer, and so directories just have that extra behavior where they, when evaluated, if they're blank or if they don't end in the backslash, the Windows installer will add the backslash and will set them by blank. Right? Does that make sense?
Yes,
right?
makes sense.
But you can see how they're totally the same thing. All right, let me kick this off. All right, we're going to jump in because Tom was here and asked nicely, and he brought up a cool thing. We will jump in next week. And we're going to go dive deep into actually an admin situation. So if you remember back when we did the Ask Me Anything, I talked about how you can have small teams and big teams, David, working on Wix together, from one person, 2-person team like we are here to thousands of developers like works on Office, and they can all work inside Wix. This time, let's talk about a feature in the Windows installer that's targeted more at those and MSIs can then be installed by single individuals, or can also be deployed into hundreds, thousands of, tens of thousands of machines using the Windows installer. So we're going to talk about a scenario that's interesting for those people that have to think about managing thousands of machines with this kind of configuration stuff.
Okay.
So we're going to write a feature for our enterprise friend, our IT guys, right? We're going to write a feature next week or we're going to do some work for our IT guys next week. Cool.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, it'll be we haven't done that so far. It's just been whoever wants to install MSI and things like that. Now we're gonna do something that really only the super advanced do it, but it'll be fun. And we're gonna the difficulty level is gonna change. It's not even difficulty level. It's the technical level is gonna change. It's gonna jump into something kind of deep in the weeds. But if you have those kinds of customers, maybe interesting functionality, and it's gonna be a lot more about the Windows installer functionality than the WiX toolset itself. But it will show off things inside Wix and how to use the Windows installer. And we'll probably learn some things along the way, which is the whole point of the Deployment Dojo.
Yep.
All right. This is fun. Thanks for running along with us. We will do this. And then Martin will go back and we'll pick up the upgrade problems, because there are upgrade things that we have to think about in here. And a couple more stories for us to tell down this user configuration of our application. But for this week, we're done. Until next week, you guys keep coding. We are. Bye.
See ya.